All right, guys, welcome. Unfortunately, my webcam doesn't work. Well, or rather, fortunately, my webcam doesn't work, so you don't have to see me. Welcome to this Azure user group meeting, the Durban chapter of our Azure user groups. This is the June news 2020. So for you guys that are new here or just joined, we're trying now in these trying times to do virtual meetings like this, and we have a monthly meeting where we're essentially chewing the fat and talking about what interesting things did we see last the month just gone by. That can be everything from tech stuff to whatever. So this is very informal. So welcome once again. So Ronald, you have the honor to get us started today.
Cool.
What cool stuff did you see, hear about, do last month?
I'll just share my screen. I'm just looking now at what's new in Azure. So one of the new things that I've seen in June was that geo-redundant storage is now available. Previously, there was only read access geo-redundancy. So now with geo-redundancy storage, you essentially get 16 nines availability on storage, which is quite cool. You can now distribute your storage accounts globally and cater for a high SLA.
And what's the cost for this? I mean, 16 nines, that's a lot.
Yeah.
What's the cost here?
Cost, we can go to calculator. I think most people will be familiar with Azure pricing calculator for now. Let's look at let's look at South Africa. I'm not sure if it's available in South Africa yet. It is available in Asia, Southeast, North Europe, West Europe. So all the USAs and America. West Europe is normally a popular one. Redundant. What? So if you're storing, I don't know, it depends how much you're storing, but you're paying like $39 for 1 terabyte a month, which is quite cheap. Usually here at the media, we use a lot of storage accounts, primarily for hosting our like front ends. That's normal HTML, JavaScript, CSS stuff. We host it directly from Azure Storage and just have a CDN on top of it, which saves us a lot of money. Like we don't have any underlying infrastructure to manage for like basic websites. Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah. Can share a little bit if you're interested in that. The other one is now for AKS, the support of proximity placement groups. So what proximity placement groups allow you to do is that your Kubernetes nodes, although they distributed across availability zones on Azure, you can tell Azure that you want them to be in close proximity to each other. This is beneficial for workloads that that require low latency between nodes.
That's very cool. That's very cool.
Previously, it was only available for, I think it was virtual machines that you can have them in close proximity.
I've got a question about CDNs, if you want to answer that.
Sorry?
I got a question regarding the CDNs. Are you guys using the new Azure CDN stuff or the older, I think it was Verizon CDN?
So we used the Verizon one, but we moved to the Microsoft CDN because it had one feature that one of our clients was spamming our CDN and passing in like a query parameter that changes based on time. So now it was essentially bypassing our cache on the CDN. So Microsoft CDN allows you to exclude parameters from the URL from being like a unique URL. So essentially, you'll have like underscore equals and some random number that keeps changing. So if we cache based on the URL, then
I used to do that in client dev when we used to build Windows apps, and APIs used to cache results. We should just append random numbers on the end to make sure we always get fresh data.
When we moved to the Microsoft CDN, our number of requests that actually hit our servers dropped to like 10% of what it was. They were like querying us like a few times every second or some crazy thing. And we kept telling the clients like change your code and use our cache properly. But
that's cool.
Yeah.
And I believe the Azure, I haven't used the Azure one, but it should be significantly cheaper than the Verizon one. I've used the Verizon one once, and like when I saw that bill, I was like, no, this is too expensive for a CDN.
Yeah. Any other Azure updates? I normally go through this like once every few weeks or so, just to see what's new, what's in preview, what's now available, what's in development. It's quite cool.
Cool. Anyone, Vivendran, Mr. Naik, what cool stuff have you come across?
So I finally got the new Windows update after Microsoft was fighting bugs for weeks, or I think almost a month. So the 2004 update, 2004. So I've got a Lenovo device and I've got a Microsoft Surface. And those are both devices that were affected by some major bugs where they halted the release on those devices. But last week I finally got it. And I've been playing around with WSL2. So I've got a very quick demo, but some of it might be, some of the cool stuff might be missed if you don't have some experience with Docker in general and the way it used to work on Windows. So let me just open up my terminal here. Is that fine?
Yeah.
Should be fine. So traditionally what would happen with Windows, especially, well, if you wanted to use Linux containers, was I Googled very quick image here. I'll have Brendan announce that, was that in Windows, Docker would create a virtual machine. So they'd create this little Docker desktop virtual machine, and Linux will run in there. So you had this machine on top of the hypervisor, which was already on top of the Windows kernel to get Linux. So it was just sort of like this extra hop that you needed to take. And It wasn't bad, but it was sort of like just burning CPU and RAM resources for the sake of it. And the cool thing about Windows WSL2 now that they've released is that, I got this image here, is here you'll see that now they actually ship in a Linux kernel next to the Windows kernel. So they've removed, so this block here previously was on top of this, or somewhere wedged in between somewhere here. So now that they're next to each other, they sort of, I don't want to say equal, but they're close to equal, because obviously this is Microsoft product, and I'm pretty sure Windows is more equal than Linux in their ecosystem. But what this means is now that they share resources evenly, or they negotiate between themselves. And if anyone's done okay, actually before I go there, and where you actually see that is if you go into settings now in Docker Desktop, under this resources pane here, you don't actually allocate any resources now to Docker, because before you had set number of CPUs and RAM and disk, and yeah, I think that was 3 things. Now you don't, it's just shared. And you've got this.
That's very cool. That's very cool.
Yeah. And you've got the, so originally I didn't believe them. Like I felt as they were selling me magic, because they said now they just sort of commingle and they work together, and to the user it's like no difference, but somehow you run into OSs in quotations. And then on top of that, they built another feature where, because Linux is so wide and there's multiple flavors of it, or distros, they give you the option in here to install a bunch of different distros. There's these toggle boxes, and you can turn them on and off whenever you want, and switch between which distro WSL uses. I'm a Linux noob, so I don't really have much preference. I just go for Ubuntu because that's the one I know. Doesn't really make much of a difference to me. And the tiny demo I've got is, if you've ever used Docker and opened Docker Desktop for the first time, you get that little get started then. And that usually makes you download this image here, this getting started image. And it's not the smallest, but it's not necessarily large as well. It's 177 megs. And that's pretty much just the tutorials to get you started. It's the MK Docs page, helping you learn Docker. And if anyone remembers this, what is it? When you used to run this before in the older system where you had a virtual machine on top of Windows, this took, I wouldn't say a couple seconds, it took maybe a second. So when you hit enter, it took a bit. It lagged a bit because it was actually going out, speaking to that virtual machine, setting up the container, starting the container, doing the port forward, and then you could access it after a while. But pay attention to, like, now I hit it and it's done. And I'm not blind, because if I go here, localhost 80, it's there. And like, that's a very simple example, but I feel as if they shaved off at least 50 to 60% of the startup time on that. And I've been messing around with a bunch of other Kubernetes things as well. And to me personally, the performance is night and day. Like, I've noticed it a lot. I might not be the best test case or representative of the hardware that people have on average, because I've got just before lockdown, perfect timing, I bought a laptop after months and months of saving. So it's a 9th-gen processor with an NVMe SSD, but I did notice that there was, like, I know how fast my hard drive is, but there was significant lag before WSL2. Now it seems like it's actually taken advantage of the full performance of my hard drive, because I think that thing can go up to like 2 gigabits per second or something stupid like that. Yeah, so WSL, it actually unlocks all that potential. When I actually learn how to do more Docker and Kubernetes stuff, I'm sure I'll notice the difference even more.
Yeah, that's very, very cool. That's very, very cool. So I've been on the inside the Windows 10 Insider build, so I've had the 2004 for a while, and I have played around with WSL2 a little bit, but I need to. Recently, I haven't done it. I need to get back to that, and I want to do some tests with Kafka, etc., running on WSL2 and see the experience from that.
So I did have it running. I had the Insider built on my older machine. I've got a Lenovo T520, so that's like a 8-year-old or 9-year-old laptop. And it was the previous, I didn't judge it too harshly, but the performance was actually worse initially. And then I just sort of like lost interest in it for a while. And then when it officially released, I was like pleasantly, because like I had that benchmark from when it was early released to now, and it really surprised me how good they've gotten it. And other than that, I've just been learning Docker. So I actually found this when I did a clean install on this machine. I've actually skipped all of this. And I realized over the couple of years, is that by me pulling scraps of knowledge together just to get stuff done, I've learned a lot of bad habits. So I've actually just been going through the getting started, and there's some nice, insightful things that I've learned here. So yeah, just starting from scratch again to see what I've missed out.
That's cool. Very, very cool. You guys, the other guys here on the call, what cool stuff have you experienced, thought about, seen? Don't be shy, just speak up here, ask questions and shout. This is, as I said, the beginning, very, very informal. So, yeah.
One of the other things I've seen recently is that now on Azure DevOps, you can have the scale set agents. So that's one of the things that I want to try out at Immediate as well. Currently, we have a build server on-premise, and as well as a hosted agent and the Microsoft hosted agent and a virtual machine on Azure, which does our builds. So I want to consolidate all of that and maybe use scale set agents. But it's currently in preview. I'll try it out.
That's cool.
Yeah, when it comes to the pricing, I'll still need to figure how that works because you pay upfront for like 4 parallel jobs on Azure DevOps. But I don't think that scales with the scale set. So if you have 2 virtual machines provisioned, you don't only pay for 2 parallel jobs. I think you still continue paying for 4. So yeah, that's one of the features that I think Microsoft is working on, but
cool.
We'll see.
It's very cool. Neil, have you done any cool stuff?
Yes, but unfortunately on the AWS side, not necessarily on Azure. I'm busy researching AWS at the moment, so my head's all stuck into Cloud Foundation and those kind of nonsense.
That's cool. Anything, are you doing any comparisons between AWS and Azure or?
Yeah, I'm sort of looking, the stuff like your Elasticsearch versus your cognitive search and playing around with those kind of things. One thing that I must admit that, is this the forum? Is this being recorded? Is that the AWS Toolkit is actually quite neat in how you go and create templates. So you actually have a real codified version of templating. I know there's a couple of commercial products out there for Azure, especially I think Terraform is one of them. There's another one or two that you can, write C# code, and that compiles into an ARM template. Well, that is built in on AWS, which I thought is really neat. So you can literally go and create C# structures that relates to the resources in AWS, compile it, and deploy. This compiles into a template, and then basically deploy it using the CLI. So that's quite neat.
That's very neat. I didn't know that was built in. I do know. I mean, some of you guys may know who Joe Duffy is, ex-Microsoft, well, architect or whatever he is. He has gone off and created a company where they are doing exactly what you're saying, Neil. They have a toolkit for writing code and getting that done into kind of templates. I have obviously forgotten what that company is named, but yeah.
Yeah, I saw they did I know what you're talking about. I know about the tool that you're talking about. They were still in preview about, now probably about 3 or 4 months ago.
Yeah. So the company is called Pulumi, P-U-L-U-M-I. But yeah, I haven't looked at it at all. It was just interesting that Joe Duffy went away from Microsoft and came up with this instead. Yeah, that's cool. Kivendran, I see you have your hand up. Or not.
Well, did unmute it. Am I unmuted? I'm not sure.
Yeah, you are unmuted.
You're unmuted.
This is the dangers of running an internal build of Teams on your machine. You click things and it doesn't work. I just wanted to share a quick nugget. So while I was relearning Docker and trying to be cleaner about what I was doing, so after this, then I just created this container. So what I've been trying to do is, because prior to this, I just spin up containers everywhere, pull images all over the place, and clutter my machine up, and then it falls apart. I learned this cool command. So if I list the containers, I've got all these. Well, okay, I've just got this one right in. And a very easy way to clean that up now is to say Docker RM, and then you can have these sort of variables with commands in them. So here I've got this variable where I'm saying Docker PS, I'm listing containers. -Q is a cool command because what it does is it only lists the numeric IDs or these things. And then I'm saying all of them. So what this is going to do is this is going to list all the containers like this, but just the numeric IDs, and then iterate over these and remove all of them, which I thought is a nice little, or not. Did I do wrong there?
In the stop the container, I think one is running. Yeah, getting
sorry. Yeah. I need a. So that you can do it for stop as well. Yeah, I was trying to remove them. So you can stop it like this, or seeing that I already started down that path of RM, you can just force it. Be evil and force things when it doesn't go your way. Yeah, I just thought I've been using this a lot because I'm trying to keep my machine as clean as possible. So Docker is meant to be, whatever you do in it is meant to be reproducible very easily. So if it's not reproducible, whatever I'm doing, then I'm probably doing it wrong. So I'm just trying to be mean with myself, and this is like muscle memory now. I just clear everything and do it again. That's my tiny little nugget there.
That's cool. So when you said that you had Docker containers images all over the place. So back in the old days, we had DLL hell. Are we saying that we now have Docker hell instead?
Yes, yes, you do. Especially with containers, because you'll stop them and then you'll forget that they're still there linked. They were created, so they in a stop state just linger in, and
exactly.
then down the line when you're trying to delete the image, it'd be like, oh, but there's a container attached to this image, and then you just sort of default into the bad behavior of -F, and you try to force everything to delete.
Yeah. So.
Oops, sorry. So yeah, I was just asking: is the storage persistent when you restart the containers? So is your data retained? Basically, is it persistent when you restart containers?
Yeah, Niels, that's a perfect question for you and database stuff and volumes.
So by default, it's not. If I remember correctly, so you would need to mount volumes and do stuff like that to persist the data, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. So that is something to be aware of. But you have, I mean, there are kind of ways and means to do it. It's not that difficult, but it's something worth remembering, so you don't do anything and then where did my data go?
Okay.
Yeah, for one of the banks in South Africa, they starting off with Kubernetes for one of their projects, and there's one application that they're trying to get running in Kubernetes, logs its errors to the actual container. So on startup, the containers were failing. It just kept crashing, and no one knew what was going wrong because the volume kept disappearing and it being like pointless. Like,
were they logging 2 containers?
Yeah.
Man, they're in for hell.
Yeah, I've seen people trip their hair out with that one.
It wasn't the bank's software. It was a third-party provider of a software. So there was a lot of back and forth of they moved their monolith application to Kubernetes, and the bank wants to use the new version, which supports containers, but yeah, it doesn't support it that well.
This is why I say, like, you're gonna burn. Lift and shift works, but you'll get burnt at some point.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
This is also reeks of people running around with big hammers. Kubernetes is currently the big hammer at the moment. Everything looks like nails.
Absolutely.
I mean, logs is, unless they doing some processing on logs, using containers as any kind of storage or data management system is, well, ridiculous. There are services that does that much better than what a containerized solution would do, unless you are doing the actual processing, which is a different story.
Absolutely. But hey, come on! Kubernetes is the latest shiny new toy, so of course we all have to use it.
Yeah.
But then when you start using Kubernetes in South Africa, and you still have to cater for disaster recovery and availability, it's not quite there yet in South Africa with availability zones and how DR is catered for.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's you're so right.
If you don't plan for disaster recovery, you don't have to run into disaster, right? There's nothing to recover. Same like you can't fail testing if you don't test.
Exactly. So that's a little bit like Trump and not doing tests for COVID virus.
Yeah, exactly.
If it doesn't test, then there are
If
no
your cases.
COVID. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're right about that. That's a good thing. Why don't you bring that up with Derivco when we're talking about disaster recovery and stuff?
Oh yeah, I'll skip that conversation.
Bring it up with Mr. Posein. That will be good. Cool. Anything else, guys?
From your side, Niels, anything on data side that's new?
Not so much on data side, more on the Kafka side and their cloud offering. That's fairly cool. Not having to worry that much around sizing of a cluster and stuff. So running the managed clusters is fairly cool, and I'm looking into that now and using that as my test bed for Kafka stuff, essentially.
Is this like Confluent offering like a service in their own cloud or in someone else's cloud like Azure or AWS?
Yeah, so they are in all the three big vendors' clouds. So Azure, cool. AWS, and Google. Actually, if you go into the marketplace or whatever it is called in Azure and searching for Confluent, you can sign up there for that.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, because for the longest time they were always these third-party like pre-bundled images. I think it's Bitnami or something. They had a Kafka image that you could deploy, but it was always a third-party one. That's cool that they've got a nice first-party one in there now.
So that's cool. That's very, very cool. And now I believe, I haven't checked lately, but I believe now. So initially in Azure, you only had sort of the Kafka broker and the control center, but now you're also getting KSQL and all that good stuff. So you have a complete offering now. So you can do cool shit up in the cloud.
Okay. I've got some fresh credit. I'll give it a spin. I'll spin some stuff up.
Yeah, I got my what's you call it, my sponsored account. So can do cool stuff.
I'm not sure. So we know who Ronald is, we know who Neil is, and we know who Niels is. Did we get an introduction from Stanganisa? Do you want to say anything? Like mention where you work, or if you're studying, or something like that? Tech stack.
Well, I actually work for eMedia with Ronald, I'm doing a bit of Azure work now, so this has been quite insightful.
That's cool.
Just got my certification for Azure experts, so that's pretty good as well. I'm just interested on Azure and just trying to learn more.
Oh, that's cool. I hope you haven't had the pain of seeing any of my code there. I hope Ronald deleted it all by the time you got there. I was young and naive when I wrote that code.
Yeah, okay.
Your name is still around. Your name is still around in the Git history.
It's still there somewhere. Yeah, it's something like close to like 500,000 lines of code there. I was hoping you would have deleted it by now.
Pivendra, nothing has changed, eh? Your code is still crap, right?
Yeah, that's true. Which is why I've shifted to more just doing documentation nowadays. Last month or so, just
you're in You're in the you're now an Confluence
Documentation.
architect.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Anything else, guys? I had hoped we would be more people on the call, but we're not. Anyone have anything else to say, to question, to comment around?
Nope, I don't think so.
We'll come. So I don't think we have. So we are also running now these Azure Sketches, where Lawrence is doing cool stuff, looking at Azure stuff and drawing and things. We'll have episode 3 coming out soon, so you will all see. Invitations will go out shortly when Lawrence knows when he want to do it. Yeah, so look out for that. Watch this space, as they say.
Cool.
If nothing else, then I think we can call this. Thank you guys for taking time Tuesday evening to come and hear us rambling on here. Awesome. Cool, guys. Let's call it.
Okay, cool. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Cheers.
Cool,
bye.
Have a good one. Cheers.
Okay, cheers. Bye.
Cheers.